Hello, and good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Burnie and Bestie Live. So glad you are here today, whether you're catching the replay or you are joining us live for another great episode of Burnie and Bestie Live. I'm Kirsten, Sobriety Bestie, and this is Tara Grace. Burn the stigma.
Burnie. Hey, everybody.
My general intention with these lives is to I guess kick off conversations, spark conversations. That's a lot of my mission, is to spark conversations on the conversations that I wish were existing and mainstream in the recovery space. There's a lot of misinformation or old ideas that are still dominating the recovery narrative. And what I know to be true is a huge part of my deprogramming from having been in AA 10 years and left 5 years ago is to question the recovery narrative and see what actually feels true to me. And so that is about developing my own critical thinking. So really my joy here with you is to spark conversations, kick off ideas, and to vibe in the comments and to see what everybody's thinking so that we can all become better thinkers together as we wake up from a coercive control situation, like being dominated by 12-step ideology for however long we were, whether it was months, years, a decade in my case, or decades, or a lifetime, right? And so today we were thinking that we would kick off with the pathologizing, the consistent and chronic pathologizing that tends to happen inside the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, for example, which is the 12-step recovery that I did. So, for example, I was told that I had a disease. Not only did I have a disease, it was fatal and progressive. That's a serious prognosis there. I was told I had a spiritual malady. I was told that I was as sick as my secrets. I was told I was ill. I was told that I couldn't trust my own thinking. I have a disease that centers in my mind, and therefore I can't trust my thoughts. I was told I was character defected. I was told all sorts of things about how something basically was wrong with me, and I need to forever do this work so that I could essentially survive. Not even do the work so that I could thrive and move on with my life. It was do the work so I could essentially survive this so-called fatal progressive disease that I now realize is baloney, that it's an idea, it's not a fact and not a reality of modern neuroscience. So I really wanted to vibe on that concept today. And of course, ask whatever questions you want about anything that you want having to do with addiction, recovery, recovering from recovery, all of the deprogramming things. But what really fascinates me is this idea that like AA takes off this shame from us. They're like, it's not your fault, you have a disease. And that can feel really good at first. But ultimately what that does is give us this learned helplessness that can be very brutal long-term and have serious long-term consequences. It can disable it does disable our critical thinking, our self-trust, our belief in ourselves, our self-confidence, our autonomy and our agency, and our time, because we're constantly forever doing this step work, service work, all this work, but the work is really going nowhere if we really think about it. Sure, a lot of us evolved inside the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. We learned, we grew. It wasn't 100% bad for most of us. Most of us did get some benefit. So yes, there is improvement, but was it Alan Carr who wrote The Easy Way to Quit Drinking Without Willpower? He talks about this analogy that is so brilliant to me, which is like wearing tight shoes all day long just to get the relief of taking them off, the pleasure of taking them off. And he's equating that to like drinking, right? But it's like, okay, so we get this pressure taken off of us by, we have a disease, it's not our fault. So there's this relief. But the cost of that relief is this lifetime sentence to this archaic cult religion where we're really going nowhere if we think about it, because we're only like one thought or one day away from misery or something pouncing on us. And it's because we're character defected. We're morally, we need to do moral inventories and all that stuff. So I kind of wanted to talk about all the pathologizing and deprogramming from that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I always talk about how when I got through the doctor's opinion, when I first had the doctor's opinion explained to me, I was like, finally, this thing that explains who I am, because I was trying to fit in this box because I felt like, you know, I had to go in a box. I didn't realize how diverse like all of these things were. And once you get labeled, once you label yourself, and then once it goes in your medical records, once, you know, you're in the criminal justice system, you know, once you're, I don't even want to call it the criminal justice system, once you're just in the system, like, you are that label, and there is so much about your identity that gets tangled up in that label, in how you're treated in every area of your life, as long as like it's known. Once you have that diagnosis, right? And then they say in the rooms only you can diagnose yourself, but it's so, yeah, I mean, and I would say society in general, right? Because then when I was like, okay, well, as I'm deprogramming, I'm like, okay, well, if the reason I'm so fucked up isn't because I have this allergy and this spiritual malady, then what is it? What's wrong with me? Like, what is going on? And then once I learned more about ADHD, even though I was diagnosed in 7th grade, I didn't know about things like executive dysfunction, time flight, like none of that stuff was explained to me, right, when I was younger. And then getting that late, I kind of was like, okay, well, that's it. That's what's wrong with me. I'm this, I'm that. And it's like everything about myself has become a label. So I'm trying to push back, because at first these things seem like they are it's like, now I can get more information and do what I need to do. Like, now I get it. But then I feel like I kind of become, I don't even want to use the word trapped, but I don't even know what the word is, but it becomes a point where it's not helpful anymore. And now I feel like being this label is preventing me from progressing forward, you know?
Yeah. I'm very cautious now with pathologizing myself, with identifying with anything that's dysfunctional, with embracing a label fully that has limits, inherent limits to it. Labels have come with limits, right? I have found labels to be incredibly liberating, as far as having them point me like as a map to look through data and research. Like when I found out about ADHD after I left AA, and autism, I went heavy into the research. And that's when I started really understanding how nutrition, my so-called character defects, which were underlying my so-called alcoholism, which is a forever disease and a forever recovery model, where I have to be exploited through free labor in church basements, essentially give away like 10 plus hours a week of my time forever to perpetuate the system. So my primary purpose in AA is to recruit for AA. Isn't that crazy? I just like realized that this week. My primary purpose in AA is to recruit for AA, because the primary purpose, as it was told to me, and we might have all been told something different, right? I hold space for that. There's nuances with how we all experienced Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't, we weren't all the same person with the same trauma and the same brain and the same mind who went into the same room with the same people and had the same sponsor, right? Things were different. But so when I'm, damn it, I go on these tangents and then I lose my track of mind. Squirrel, ADHD, squirrel, squirrel. So, but when AA is saying that everything is alcoholism, and then is labeling it that, then I'm no longer looking at what else could be going on with me. And so what AA is saying is underlying, oh, here it is, underlying my so-called alcoholism is what's driving that is my spiritual malady, right? So I have this spiritual malady, according to Bill Wilson, who is selling his cult religion. And the reason why Bill Wilson is selling us on a spiritual malady, why, is because originally is because he's selling the Oxford group, which is how he got sober for the first 2.5 years. So Bill is trying to sell the Oxford group, which is a religion. No one's questioning whether or not the Oxford group was a religion. You know, even Time Magazine said that it was a cult religion. Okay, so this is not scandalous. This is not conspiracy. This is like reality. So Bill is pitching, because he's a salesman, member, and he's found God on the mountaintop in the town's hospital, right, on Belladonna. So Bill is selling us on this Oxford group, and he's connecting it to so-called alcoholism. So the bridge between so-called alcoholism, which now I really call alcohol use disorder, and the solution he's pitching, the Oxford group at the time, which later morphed into AA as we know it now, because he's selling religion, he has to bridge alcohol with God. So how does he do that? He invents something called a spiritual malady. This is literally Bill's invention. This is like not no other group is like, "Oh, you don't go to the doctor and they're like, "Okay, you have a fever, you have the chills, you're reporting some anxiety, you have a spiritual malady." Like, this is just not what we do. Not in, I don't know, not in modern medical science. And so he's making up this spiritual malady thing. And so when I think that everything has to do with my spiritual malady and my character defects are going to set off my my obsession of the mind, which is going to, then I'm going to drink inevitably, which is going to have a physical allergy because I have this spiritual malady. Well, there is no spiritual malady. Yes, some people might be more spiritual or connected to their spirits than others. Fine, there's like a scale there. But really, when I dug into autism and ADHD, when I got proper assessments after leaving 12-step cult religion, what I found out was that nutrition, sleep, movement, like the basics, like being natural, right? That those types of things are going to change my brain and support my brain functioning in a way that's going to eliminate my character defects. Turns out they're not character defects. They're, some of what was going on with me was, I'd say, having like a high toxic burden inside my system. So that's affecting my brain. So that when I do things like detoxification or eat clean or move my body and sweat regularly, or even wearing natural fibers or making sure that I'm not in toxic environments and overburdening my system, my body's going to work better. I'm going to sleep better. My brain's going to, do what it does in the middle of the night and heal itself better and get rid of, like, eliminate, take the garbage out, so to speak. And I won't have these character defects when my body is functioning better, which has to do with my cellular biology more than a spiritual malady. But everything in AA is pathologized as you're self-centered, you're self-seeking, you're fearful, you're this. And I don't know, the way that where I'm at now in my life is like just really being more interested in having my cells function better. This isn't medical advice. This is just like what I found right now. And that's actually helped my brain functioning and my so-called pathologies that AA gave me. That a lot of them are eliminated by just actually like breathing fresh air, drinking clean water. Like,
I know. It's it's so interesting how it's like, I wonder what my life would have been like had that not been the first thing that I entered when I was in my 20s, right? When I was 21, 22, had that not been my identity at such an early age. And I know there's people that's their identity before they have their first AA meeting at 14, 16. There's people who are literally born into the rooms, right? But when you're given that, how much is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like, I know I'll never know the truth on that. Like, how much would it be?
yeah.
But oh man, I would love to know, especially knowing how many people just age out, right? Like people who are in their teens and early 20s, like majority of people do age out by 35. And looking around, do I know people who are older that still struggle? Absolutely. But the people that I know, and I know everybody's different, lived experience, all that such, but I do know a shit ton of people that before they were 35, they stopped. And it wasn't this big crazy thing. It was just they had some sort of incident after years of all different incidents to where they stopped. So I always think about that, like that identity, like how much of that. And even now trying to look back at my past, I still feel like I pathologize it a lot. Like I still think that I look at it in a way that isn't probably factual, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at it factual.
Well, that's why I love critical thinking, because I'm always examining like my thoughts. Like, wait, where does that belief come? Where is that something that I've just heard told to me over and over? Was that like brainwashed into me through repetition, whether it was from society, from teachers, from the educational system, or literally from 12-step cult religion? Like, what am I actually believing, and where points that it's true? And then we have to like be careful of something that's called, a lot of us have heard of this, cherry picking. It's something in statistics where, let's say that there's 1,000 studies exist on one topic, let's say like alcoholism, and that one of those studies says one thing and then 999 say another thing. And if you want to prove your point, like, so I have a master's in statistics, right? So when I was in grad school, we called this data snooping, but it's also like formally called cherry picking data. So what cherry picking is, or data snooping, we called it data snooping. So you look through all, you have an idea, a hypothesis, and then you look through all the data, then you find the study or the few studies, the few select studies that validate your hypothesis. Then you say, see, I'm right. And you ignore everything else. So that's why Mark Twain, that's probably why, I don't know, I literally did ever met him. Mark Twain said something like, there's lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics. Because you can take a study and say, here, it proves my point. Well, we know, like, in scientific method is more like, I have a hypothesis. I'm going to do a randomized trial or a randomized sample. I'm going to randomly select people from a population. I'm going to look at them, and then I'm going to see if that random sample differs so much from the population average, the average of that, right? That it's actually different, or, you know, so you don't just look and find evidence that your story is true. That's biased. So I feel like that's a lot of what I see people doing that are trying to prove these archaic, like, worldviews are accurate, is by cherry picking. Oh, look, these 3 studies show this. It's like, but what about the other 900?
Right.
But through critical thinking, and I know not everybody has the time for this, and I love this stuff. That's why I try to like dig through, find the stuff, and then like make videos about it. By digging through and thinking critically, like, who else says this? Who has an opposing view? What are all the views? Like, what do I think? What do these people have to like gain by sharing this story? Like, are they selling something? Are they selling, like, do they work for the rehab industry? Do they like, you know, like, how does this all piece together and who benefits from this information? So waking up to critical thinking and looking at bigger pictures has helped liberate me personally from outdated narratives.
No, totally. And speaking of cherry picking, I saw a comment that when you were talking about the spiritual experience thing, someone mentioned the whole Carl Jung thing, right? And it's like that's cherry picking too, because he saw spirituality as one potential avenue. He didn't say like, this is the way you got to do it, such and such. And I'll be 100% honest, in my deprogramming journey, as I started to learn more about harm reduction, and like I learned there's like, I feel like there's a few basic studies that everybody starts to learn as they're learning more about harm reduction. And then it's like you hold on to these, and there's so many more studies that prove the effectiveness of it. But I feel like as a community, especially on social media, and I am 100%, I'm not talking about other people, I'm talking about myself. I have totally done this. The couple of studies that, you know, everybody regurgitates, it's like it kind of is the same thing. You know what I mean?
And then it's like propaganda.
Yeah, it's like, and I 100% support and believe in harm reduction, but I do think that we can start to, and we don't have to cherry pick, because there's plenty of other supportive data and things out there. But I think sometimes can start to, like, people who talk about harm reduction, I think that sometimes we can start to sound like the AA people who, you know, what do they always talk about? Like the Cochrane Review and like a couple of other things that they always mention. It's like, well, we're always mentioning the same shit too, you know? So I think it's just part of being in groups of people who think similarly and are passionate about it. And then, you know, with AA, there's the whole extra level, because it's like it becomes their whole identity, like they're consumed by it, you know? So yeah, it's all of it is crazy to think. But when you take a step back from everything, I was thinking about everything you said about statistics and finding things that support your point of view and all of that stuff. It really is so important to look at the opposing view. Mm-hmm. And I just recently started doing this. Like, what do I truly believe without other people who I agree with? Like, what do I personally believe about this stuff? I think is so important. And then sometimes it's like you get caught up, well, my personal beliefs, like, you know, but like they do matter for you, you know? Like sometimes I think some will be like, well, overall the whole, like, your personal experience isn't everybody's experience, but it's like, what do I stand on and what do I believe on? What do I believe in without outside influence? Because I have been given ideas and things to believe in for so long that it's like, this is your freedom now. And again, I 100% support harm reduction, deprogramming, all of that stuff. But it's been fun and interesting to get to know it based on not being told the facts by someone else or not reading it in a book, but really reflecting on my own, like real critical thinking.
Yeah. I like this Carl Jung shout out here too. Yesterday I read AA Coming of Age, the beginning. I guess it's in 3 parts. I think I read the first part of the book, which was essentially, I think it was Bill's speech or talk at the 20-year anniversary of, so-called alleged 20-year anniversary of AA in 1955. We all know AA didn't start in 1935, as they hide the history, right? It started in 37 or 38 because there was no AA. He was in the Oxford group. Like, there's no even like Frank Bookman in that 20-year speech. I'm like, he's all like the Shoemaker talking about it was Shoemaker. I'm like, what about Bookman, yo? Just because Bookman was with Hitler saluting and stuff now in Nuremberg, now you can't say it was actually like, you can't say it was Bookman. You're hiding the history. What kind of group hides the history? Anyway, it was the 20-year anniversary. And I was reading that. And yeah, it talks about how Carl Jung was saying, as we probably know, that that hopeless alcoholics are doomed to death or lock them in a closet or like whatever, basically, he said. Or there is one chance that I've heard of with a few people where they have to have a spiritual experience. So literally, this is over 100 years ago. Somebody said, somebody who was in a mental health profession 100 years ago had an idea. And we're still running with that idea today, that you have to have a spiritual experience. Now, I'm not saying that having a spiritual experience won't change you enough or sufficient enough to get sober or something. I mean, people are going down to the Amazon, like to Peru, and doing ayahuasca, having spiritual experiences and leaving sober. Like people who have alcohol addictions are going and doing that. I understand that spiritual experience can get some sober. I'm not denying that.
Right.
But it's not like the only way to navigate alcohol addiction. It's not. It's literally an idea from 100 years ago. Look, there used to be an idea that you shouldn't wash your hands before you deliver a baby, and we didn't know why all the women were dying in childbirth, right? Then we realized, oh, sometimes old ideas with new information aren't really valid anymore.
Imagine that.
Let's see some of these comments over here. Where are we? If I scroll up.
People in AA are definitely not pillars of healthy living.
Okay, then we have Harry saying, doing my nightly inventory or evening review basically proved to me that I didn't have character defects. I had clinical issues, not a spiritual malady. Yeah, say more. Is that because you weren't getting, they weren't changing anything for you, or it just made it more obvious? It woke you up to what the nature of what was really going on with you at that time.
And shout out to you for even seeing that, because I was doing my inventory and still not seeing that, still thinking there's something terribly wrong with me.
Yeah. So Blue Butterfly, what's up, Blue Butterfly, says harm reduction takes the shame out of drinking and adds critical thinking.
That's actually a nice line.
I honestly think anything other than harm reduction is kind of violent. Like, I kind of feel like that's the word, like, because then you're forcing somebody into your ideology and your belief system. And to be honest, most of us don't want sobriety or abstinence, or me personally, I wanted my consequences to stop or slow down. I wanted my life to change. I didn't want to give up alcohol. I wanted my problems to not be as intense. Like, I would have taken less problems and kept the drinking versus. So I feel like it's kind of violent to to coerce somebody into your religion, into your ideology, into your system when they don't really want that. Like, to me, violence is what it feels like. It's like can I say spiritual violence? Like, you have to go through, like, when what's that music?
Oh, it might be my room, the other room.
Oh,
I can
So when I had a friend who was in AA for a couple years before I got sober that I knew from like my, early days. Like I met her when I was a teenager and then early 20s drinking and stuff. And I remember I texted her when I went to, oh, wait, where'd Burnie go? I texted her when I went to rehab. I was at the airport, San Francisco airport, flying down to Los Angeles to go to rehab. And she texted me. I said, I'm getting sober. I'm flying to rehab. And she wrote, the only thing that changes is everything. And all these other AA lines. And I was like, what the hell is this? I didn't speak cult yet. I didn't speak cultanese yet. AA culty speak yet. So I didn't really get it. I was like, the only thing that has to change is everything. But that isn't that true though. So for me, yeah, I feel like if your harm reduction can include abstinence, but if you're promoting and if you're selling an idea that anything that's something other than harm reduction, like, I don't know, it just feels violent to me. That's just my opinion. But I feel like harm reduction should be the goal, and that may be abstinence, and it may be smart to be abstinence.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where are we? Okay. Louise says, the whole idea of ideological possession is literally based on Jungian theory. And I don't know why steppers try to claim him. They don't know him. Well, literally, where else how would you feel about if you were going to go get surgery and you were researching the different surgeons to get surgery from, and one of them was like, we are using the same ideas from 100 years ago, and we have never updated our procedures, our protocols, our thought process. Our ideology is 100 years old and never changed, and that's what we're doing. And then there's another surgeon that says, we are using modern medical science. We are looking at data from recent things and what we've learned over the past 100 years. Where would you go?
Exactly.
Where would you go?
And it's a literal no-brainer for anything but if you have a substance use disorder. Like, people will really say it's been around for over 100 years, as if that makes oh, well, then let me fucking jump right on it. Like, they say that as it's a good, that it hasn't changed. I'm like, dude, yes, you can't go through the program and get a real experience without coming of your medication. Oh, we don't tell people not to come off meds, but it's ruthlessly subliminal messaging. And depending on the groups, some people do straight up tell you. I hate to say it, but there was a time I told a couple of girls, I said, when you're serious, let me know. And I meant once they got off their Suboxone, that's when I would start working the steps with them. So some straight up do say it.
Mm-hmm.
This shit.
Okay, so Kat says, AA is an addiction in itself. Doesn't allow for people to heal or actively recover, because once an addict, always an addict is not always true. You know what? I so agree with this. And that's why what was really on my heart to talk about today was the pathologizing of everybody, and how somehow, like, I've been deep in the Rockefeller rabbit hole recently. And yeah, I actually just read the speech that Bill gave at the Rockefeller dinner. It's anyway, videos coming on the topic. But this idea somehow through Rockefeller, through Bill Wilson, we have this idea that alcohol addiction is forever. It's a forever recovery model. And it's one of those like double speak things where it's giving Orwell, it's giving 1984 vibes, where you one word means the opposite, like when Goebbels, like Hitler's propaganda minister, was called like the minister of enlightenment or something, where you name something like the opposite of what it is, and then that gets branded, and then that term gets repeated so often that you like believe it. So they've said this in recovery, like, I don't even believe in recovery anymore. I believe that there's a recovery period and it's temporary, as it is for everything. Recovery literally means temporary. Are we taking crazy pills, people? Like, what the fuck is going on? Somehow we have this idea that recovery is forever. It's like, that's like saying a temporary permanent. I'm in temporary permanently. It's like, what are you saying? Like, what are you saying? Recovery means temporary. Like, why are you saying it's forever? Like, no. It's like
Nope.
jumbo shrimp. It's like, is it small? Is it big? Help me out, people. It's not oxymoron. Does anybody
Yeah,
else
it
like
is
have
an
the same
oxymoron.
idea as me? I'm like, why is it forever, but it's called recovery? It should be called forevery. Can we call it
Yeah.
forevery? Can we be accurate here? I'm in forevery. I just made up a word, but it makes a lot more fucking sense. I'm in forevery than I'm in recovery, because you don't recover. You do not recover in Alcoholics Anonymous. You're in forevery. You're not in recovery.
Yeah, well, that's the
Okay.
disease model keeps you sick. Like to recover, even though in the book it literally says on the cover page, like what, like how 100 men and women recovered, but still, and even if you use that terminology, well, you're not really, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're recovered, but you still only have a daily reprieve that's contingent on your spiritual condition, like all of that stuff. But it keeps it alive because the disease model, well, you never, it's always lurking. It can always be there. So yeah, it's dangerous if you think that you're recovered in a way.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, I don't think that at all. I think recovery keeps you half sick. I think that a lifetime of recovery, you can do so much better than that. You can recover and you can move on, and recovery keeps you sick. Alicia Jean said, yes, God, yes, I'm so glad we are talking about this. Me too.
Yeah. I'm going to start calling it. What did I say?
Forevery.
Forevery. I'm in forevery because it's literally a lifetime sentence. I showed up at Alcoholics. Now, maybe this didn't happen for everybody. I showed up at AA. I was going to go to one meeting the night I got out of rehab, but the indoctrination works fast, doesn't it? So I go to one meeting and this chick says, I live by you. Let's share a cab home. Don't worry, I'll pay for it. On my way out of the cab, I give her money and she's like, I'll pay for it. And I was like, she's so nice. She's like, why don't we meet tomorrow for coffee? I'm like, that sounds great. This is like as I'm getting out of the cab. And she's like, okay, well, let's go to the meeting first. It's at 8 a.m. and I'll meet you afterwards. We'll go to the cafe across the street. And I was like, well, I don't really want to go to another meeting. I was only going to go to one, but I want to have coffee with her because she's sober and I have no sober friends. So I went to the meeting so that I could go have coffee with my new friend. But we get there and I've told this story recently. And then I think I'm going to have coffee with her, but she lied. It was coercive indoctrination. She opens up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and starts reading me the preamble to the 4th edition. And I'm like, it sounds like wah, 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 wah. I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? So I wanted a friendship, but I ended up getting indoctrinated. So it was like, deceptive recruiting from the beginning. But I was told by these people when I got there. And then later I turned around and did the same thing because I was indoctrinated, and it works fast. They get you in fast. So I was telling you that I read AA Comes of Age yesterday, and I could see it through a deconstructed perspective. And I'm going to make some content on this so that like I can share it with you. But like, it's so different to read it when you understand what's happening and see how they were using promotion, not attraction, for a very long time, very specifically and strategically using all sorts of things, including celebrity like Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller Jr. And yeah, so I was taught when I got there that it was forever, that I have a fatal progressive disease and that I need to forever do the steps. But it's slow. She didn't tell me the first night, you're going to need to stay here forever and give away 10 plus hours a week and do this thing. Otherwise you're going to die. No, she said, I'll have a coffee with you. It's a slow progression. And she was, so I was 30 days sober when I met her. It was the night I got out of rehab. She was almost 6 months or 2 months more sober than me. She was 87 days sober when she's doing that, when she's coercing me into indoctrination. She's not even 90 days sober yet. She's still in her 90 and 90 indoctrination boot camp. And she's letting me know that I need to come forever, that I'm sick, I'm diseased, and she's already on it. And that's how a lot of the sponsorship or the recruitment works. It's like they get the new ones to turn around and recruit the new ones. So we get sucked in through this friendship and this connection that we're craving. And, you know, some people say connection's the opposite of addiction. I don't know, but connection sure as shit felt good when I got out of rehab and I felt like the rug was pulled underneath me. But then I'm actually just getting indoctrinated the whole time and I don't really know it because I don't understand indoctrination. And they're saying we're not a cult, but you need the brainwashing. They're saying we're not religion, but we're spiritual. I'm like, but this is a religious cult, isn't it? And they're like, no, but we'll be your friend. Let's get a coffee. Oh, by the way, you're sick. You are diseased. I'm like, what the fuck?
But the only person who can diagnose you is yourself, of course. Yeah, I was indoctrinated. The very first quote unquote inpatient place that I went to that my parents thought was like a medical facility was really just a 12-step well, it was called a 12-step retreat at the time. I think now, years later, they do have actual clinicians in there, but literally the entire place was run by people who had just gone through the steps. You would leave on step 8 making amends, and it was very quick like that. You could be within your first 60 days and taking people through the book because they thought you work the steps as fast as you can. That way you start working with people as fast as you can because that's what's going to keep you sober, all of that shit. So yeah. How much of this, whether intentional or not, is preying on weakness? I mean, yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could look at it as weak, but I think it's just like vulnerability. It's preying on people who are looking for something and they get that. Like you said, you were just looking for a friend. You got that friend. And then you got a whole new identity along with it, 2-for-1 special.
The only thing you have to change is everything. Is that friendship? Is that friendship? When you have to change your personality, your identity, your worldview, and then you have to adopt all the pathologies that you are forever diseased, that you're in forevery. You are now in forevery. So you have a fatal progressive disease. It's not only is it fatal progressive, it's talking to you. So you can't trust your thinking because that's your disease talking. And if you doubt that you have the disease, that's proof you have a disease. Not only that, this fucker's in the parking lot doing push-ups. It's like, what? I just wanted a coffee. Like, what is going on? I'm having an anxiety attack and I wanted a friend. Like, what is this?
Yeah, it's insane. It's actually insane.
Chris says, I just wanted to fit in somewhere for the first time in my life. And Chris says, a lot of toxic validation. I had my trauma used against me more times than I'll ever remember. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like you give them all this information in your 4-step that they can later use against you. Tara, nice name if you say it like Tara. Are you Tara or are you Tara? Because I'm a Tara. I'm so glad you two are speaking on this. I absolutely agree. Thanks for bringing awareness. A great job, ladies. Thank you for being here. And I think there's so many of us who like we knew something, but it just like, I know for me, the reason I do this is because I spent way too much time, even after I left, thinking that there was something wrong with me, even though I couldn't do the program. And I think about all the people who are in a meeting right now, who are going to a meeting tonight, who are celebrating a birthday night tonight, right? Getting their however many year chips and are literally hanging on by a thread because they think that hanging on by a thread in AA is better than the alternative, which they think the only alternative is to go back out there. Like that's torture, dude.
I have a friend who, when I started dissenting, like in April of this year, she said, I totally see both sides. I get 100% where you're coming from, and I agree. And I can see what you're talking about. And also, my dad's in AA and has been for like his whole life. Well, not his whole life, like decades, right? And he's doing way better now than when he was drinking when I was growing up. Like, we're all happy that he goes to AA because he's sober and all of his friends are in AA. He's been going there decades. So for him, it's a good thing. And I was listening to her and I was like, I get it. I get that. I can see like her, boomer dad. So somebody who's in their maybe their mid 70s or whatever, having all their friends there and how that can feel like harmless or even like a benefit. But aren't those the same people, the same old timers that are perpetuating the harmful ideology. So maybe it's a benefit for your dad to go because he's a better person going, but he's literally parroting a very harmful ideology to young people. Some of them are teenagers, and letting them know that they're going to be in forever. I mean, sorry, recovery forever. Forevery is staying. Where did we have Forevery was birthed today in this live stream. Yes, Blue Butterfly. That these boomers who mean well, and I'm not trying to be like a generational thing here, just the fact that if you've been in AA for 40 years, you're probably at that higher generation, and you're brainwashing the younger generation into this, that you are diseased, it is forever, it's fatal, it's progressive. If you're talking in a meeting, other than you prayed and got a parking spot or some magical thinking thing, then you're indoctrinating these younger generations into the forevery that is harmful. So I do not think it's harmless for you to be like going for 40 years and still going because it makes your life better. I think that's self-centered as fuck. But you don't see it when you're in it. You don't see that it's harmful. So I'm like, okay, I have like, part of me is like, okay, I get it. Like maybe these people in their 70s who have like 40 years up, their whole status, their whole life is AA. Is it harmless for them to go? I'm like, but they're the ones who got me locked into the system that I would rather have not been locked into. And that if people understand the reality of what it is, that they can actually be in conscious choice. I don't actually want AA to go away. I want informed consent. That would be, if I could wave my magical wand, it would be informed consent. Just like when you get surgery, there's a chance you might not survive. There's a chance you might wake up in the middle of anesthesia and be awake while they're cutting into you. Like we all know, like, and then we freak out about some of these risks, right? And we decide to go do the damn thing anyways because we feel like the reward is worth the risk. That's all I want for AA. Let's be clear. It's forevery. It's not recovery, because you will not recover, because you need a daily reprieve forever because you have a spiritual malady. You're going to believe all this baloney that's not validated. But being in a cult religion does help some people, especially these low bottom drunks or whatever, like get sober. So there's a small chance it might work for you, but there's also all this harm. I don't know. Why is that so like scandalous?
And I still feel like even the people that it technically helps, it still does. It's maybe not like in a sense like, oh, it's harming them actively, but I think maybe not harm, maybe limiting, right? Like they could have done, instead of spending that past 40 years in AA, believing all of those things, he could have had a more like true freedom and not worrying about, attending an alkathon on New Year's Eve and all of those things. So, I mean, I know it's controversial to say, but I still feel like even the people that it technically helps, it's there's some not so positives in there. So, Chris, Tara, your content helped me get through some tough times of self-doubt during my deprogramming. I left in 2021. It was easier to quit nicotine than to quit NA. Thank you for your journey so people like me don't feel ashamed. Thank you. And I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you got through it, dude. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. The people, like those of us who get it, it's unspoken, right? Like we don't like, it's important that we speak about it, but we get it. Like when people say, people will mock, right? Like, oh yeah, AA harmed you, a program that saved millions. I'm sure it really harmed you. You just couldn't do the work. You couldn't hack it. All the things they say, right? But those of us who literally thought we were going to die because of everything that was in that program, I mean, how, like, what the hell, dude? Those of us who, when we got to our end and we're like, well, I've tried this a whole bunch of times and it hasn't worked yet, but this is my literal only hope because I don't want to do that life anymore. That desperation, I mean, if I think about it too much, I'll cry. Like yeah. So I'm happy for you. Thank you. Jim Cunningham said, I want it bind into history. What does it say about a society? The industry needs to be held accountable. I wish, dude. I would love to hold that industry accountable. Do you want to read that one?
Ryan says, ugh, one of the sickest things I heard and used to believe myself is the old chestnut. My brain needs a good scrubbing. Planting those seeds of self-doubt. So grateful to see through that now. Yeah, I heard when I first got to AA, I did actively hear in multiple meetings people saying my brain needs the brain. Yeah, it's brainwashing, but my brain needs the brainwashing because my brain's trying to kill me. And even when I heard, maybe some of you guys have seen that video, reaction video I did to a talk that RFK Jr. did in April for the opioid crisis in Nashville. And he literally starts it off with, I'm 42 years sober. I go to a meeting every day. When I got there, they said my brain needed the brainwashing. And I'm like, okay, so there's people who have cancer who might do radiation because it's not that their body needed the radiation, it was a treatment, right? And then the second phase is to look at the harm from the treatment. I wrote down a word today. What is it called? Okay, so here, it's right here because I am such a nerd. Okay, this word is so intense. I'm going to type it down because what the fuckery is this word?
Oh no. You're always teaching me new words too.
Okay, so did I say that right? Iatronic disease. Iatronic disease is adverse condition arises from medical treatment, drug, or healthcare intervention. So I don't have a fatal progressive disease. I have iatronic disease from Alcoholics Anonymous. I got to AA and I have the disease of Alcoholics Anonymous, not the disease of alcoholism. The disease of Alcoholics Anonymous is that I am disabled in my thinking. I think I need a free labor forever and I need to exploit myself forever, and that I need to be in these church basements and I need to confess. I need to atone for my sins and I need to do this whole religious thing. And yeah, and it's actually not true. Okay, I'm rambling. Blue Butterfly says there are AA people sober for many years who unalienable, am I saying that right? Themselves because of being in a cult. Maybe is that alienate or unalive themselves because of being in a cult where no matter what you do or say, it's never good enough. Yeah. I would imagine that these people feel alienated and that some of them unalive themselves. And that's really like the heartbreaking thing for me is that if you're in a system that says it works if you work it, the implication there is that if you're not getting the result that they promise, that it's your fault, right? Because it says the system's never the problem, you're the problem. Like cult rule number 1 is we're not a cult. Cult rule number 2 is you're the problem, you're wrong, it's you. So that's very, very harmful messaging that says there's never, also if any group or any system says that it never fails, that if there's a problem, it's you, like run. That's like giving cult vibes. It doesn't mean it's a cult, but it's one of the signs for sure that you're in a harmful group. Okay, so maybe we have a pronunciation here. Iatrogenic. Okay, cool. Yeah, and Blue Butterfly is saying unalive. Yeah, I feel like I know some people. I mean, we all know the people, like, don't we all know of like an old timer with like double digits, multiple decades of sobriety who ended it in our home group or in our friends' home group, and we're like, what happened? And it's kind of like this weird like seed of like, well, if this program works, then why are the people who've been here forever like not wanting to live? Don't they have the surely they have the promises by now. Surely they're happy, joyous, and free. Surely they're trudging the road of destiny and all that other stuff. Surely no matter how far down the scale they've gone, they've figured out how they can, benefit others.
Yeah, and then they'll always turn into, well, they must have stopped doing inventory. They must have stopped being grateful or great. All that stuff becomes all about something that they did or didn't do.
Yeah. Nicole says, trauma therapy, inner healing, and learning to love myself is what helped me. Awesome. Yeah. AANA was so harmful and kept me in the cycle of not trusting myself. 100%. And it's so subtle. That's why I jokingly say that like 12-step is cunning, baffling, and powerful, because it's like a slow erosion, like that frog in slowly boiling water, where we don't realize, I didn't realize, maybe some people see it, that slowly by slowly our self-esteem is being chipped away, our agency, our autonomy, we're becoming dependent upon the group, a sponsor, a higher power, all of that. Now, for some people, they were already religious and they can kind of get with the higher power of your understanding vibe. A lot of us, we're not religious and we're not interested in it. So it's, again, the word that comes to my mind is violent. It's pretty violent to tell someone if you don't become religious, you're going to die. To me, that it's kind of like a violence against our agency, against our being. You have to believe like me, otherwise you're going to die. I mean,
when you really put it like that, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, run, run, run.
But that's where, it's like, okay, well, they must know. And that's what the whole not trusting yourself, right? Like, that's how they get you, because like, well, this person knows, right? They've got 3 weeks. I can't get 3 weeks, even if they just don't have like a ton of time, which I don't even think time really matters. But you see something in them and you're like, well, I can't do this. And then they like read literature that kind of solidifies once they take you through that book, and you can start putting yourself in that person. Or when someone shares and you're like, oh man, like that's just like me, all that stuff. It's like, okay, well, I can't, my best decisions got me here. And so you take a leap of faith and then you get brainwashed, and they say, well, my brain needed washing. And you're like, yeah, I guess mine did too,
Yeah. I got this comment maybe 2 days ago or yesterday on YouTube, and the guy was saying, it's clear AA is clearly not a cult. And I'm just not interested in arguing whether AA is a cult or not. I don't even think that's an interesting question. I think the interesting question is, like, how has AA harmed me as someone who's deprogramming? What are the harms inherent in AA, so I can see if those are still alive in my mind, and I still have the ideology ruling my thoughts are reformed in a way that's currently harmful for me. But what his evidence was that AA is not a cult was that, number one, cults don't make the newcomers the most priority. Everybody knows the newcomer's the most important person in the room. They're the top of the hierarchy. They get all the attention. And number two, that a warning for me is that his sponsor warned him that the smart people are the ones who die, who have a problem, and that you can't be intelligent if you want it to work. So you have to drop it. So my reply was, okay, well, number one, cults very often love bomb the newcomer. It's interesting you say that the newcomer is being love bombed and they're the top priority. 100%. That's definitely that's definitely giving cult. And also, your sponsor is actively disabling your critical thinking. Another sign of a cult. Like, what? You can't trust your thinking. Your intelligence is going to be a problem for you. Drop your intelligence. And I know it literally says that in the book, doesn't it? Like, the smart ones aren't going to make it. It's like,
yeah, I used to always hear it. Like, you can't be too stupid for the program, but you can be too smart. That's insane. Kate said, when I left, I thought I had failed AA, not that AA failed me. Same. I mean, I share all the time how I was still recommending that for a long time after I left, because I thought it would work for everybody else, right? It didn't work for me, but if you really wanted it, it was definitely going to work for you, because there was something that I did wrong, even though I couldn't figure out what the hell it was. So yeah, totally relate to that.
Hi, Cassandra.
Hi, Cassandra.
You want to take it?
Sure. Alicia said, went to my first meeting at 17 and swore the problem was me up until recently. It was keeping me stuck because, it was keeping me stuck because if I didn't do what was suggested, that I wasn't willing to go to any lengths. Yes. Then guilt, shame, relapse, and repeat. Dude, like 100%. Like I think that is the cycle that so many of us get stuck in, and that keep us in, because it's like, well, can I even trust that, like, my thoughts about maybe I should leave, maybe I should try something else, maybe this isn't working for me anymore. Well, that's probably my disease anyways, right? Like, so yeah, I totally relate. And I'm glad that you're able to see it now. Like, there is, not to overgeneralize and say, we all experience this the same, because I think everybody's journey is a little different. But the freedom that I have felt since, and it continues, like the miracles keep happening, right?
You stayed for the miracle. You left for the miracle.
Yes, the true miracle, like the freedom that they promise in that rooms. like I cannot tell you like how truly just real free. Like it's I can't even put it into words. So I'm excited for you.
I want to give a shout out to everybody who's watching the replay. What's up? What's up, party people? Feel free to share your thoughts below in the comments. Having you in the conversation is also really important. It's about critical thinking with all of the thinking, all of the thoughts, all of the minds. So feel free to join the comments.
Cassandra on YouTube. Chris said, attractive newcomers get the attention. They sure do. They sure do.
Jim says self-sufficient does no good. There's so much about the ideology that's harmful. It is really about beating down our independence when you look at it. It is really about like you can't want for yourself, you can't think for yourself, you can't act for yourself, you can't choose your purpose for yourself, you can't choose your identity for yourself, you can't choose your worldview for yourself or your beliefs about addiction for yourself. Like, here's ours. And if you don't pick ours, fine, but you're going to be punished with it. And how do people in AA punish you for not going with a group think? Well, maybe you're not invited to fellowship. You're not invited to speak. You're not called on to speak in a meeting. You're not invited for coffee after the meeting. You're not given connection. You don't get to, belonging is withheld from you if you withhold yourself from the group think. Well, in my experience.
Yeah, because you're acted like you're the sick one. Like, oh, be careful. They're getting a little crazy over there.
Slippery slope. You're
yeah,
on a slippery
exactly.
slope. Oh, you're thinking for yourself? Slippery slope.
Yeah, but don't worry. They'll pray for you. Alicia said, because I was in and out of the rooms for so long, I hesitate to talk about the fact I'm Cali sober and it's working for me. But harm reduction is such a newer concept that it's taking a while for people to understand. Well, I think the harm there's a lot there that like the harm reduction to us feels newer, but I mean it's been around for decades, right? But it's sad how it does seem to be a newer conversation in the recovery space, right? Like I think before there was harm reduction and then recovery. Now we're trying to bridge those two things together because they fucking go together, right? And then the Cali sober thing, it's like in the end, right, like once you've left, like you get to, like, this is your path, right? And what anybody else thinks about it, people are always going to have their thoughts about it, right? But you're doing what's working for you, and that may not be the same thing as them, right? But you just have to and you can see there are so many people in the cannabis community that have a past, right, that don't even identify as people with a substance use disorder or even claim recovery at all. So you're among a good crowd.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, I made a video on Sobriety Bestie YouTube about deconstructing sober time. And I did it with another sober friend, and we did it on the week of our sobriety birthdays. And so she was turning 26, although I would say 36, because I think she drank for a couple of days within that 36 years. So it's really like 36 years that were mostly or like pretty much sober. And then for me, it was my 16-year sobriety birthday. And we both like came to the conclusion while doing that podcast that sober time is like, not that it's a scam, but it's like, this whole idea that abstinence is superior and the goal, and that it means something about your worthiness as an individual, like that it's like this status thing that yeah. So I don't agree with that. I think that is harmful. Maybe some of the people who, so then maybe you're lying about your sober time, or maybe you don't actually want to be yourself. And maybe your life would be better if you took gummies every day or every weekend or whatever, instead of being totally abstinent. Maybe abstinence isn't for everybody, but there's this like standard, or this really archaic purity culture religious stamp from Bill Wilson's religion on that we're supposed to be abstinent in order to have value, in order to be listened to in the meeting, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth if you're not abstinent, right? Like you don't even get to speak. You don't know anything if you're not like there's such a like a hierarchy that depends upon how long it's been since you've had a drink. And when people come on my YouTube and they say things like, I'm 36 years sober in AA, I'm 28 years sober and I'm 42 years sober in AA, therefore shut the fuck up, what I say is the rule. I mean, that's the attitude basically. So the first thing that I say is, bro, like out here in quotes, we don't do the status sober game. I care more about your character than how long it's been since you've had a drink. And you're showing me who you are right here. So please, like, if you are an asshole to strangers on the internet, that's all I need to know about you right now. Your sober time means nothing to me. And the fact of you are literally like trolling me right now. Like, I'm not thinking you're superior to me. I'm thinking maybe what you're doing isn't working because of your current behavior that I'm seeing right here. Like, so yeah, I don't believe in, I don't believe that sobriety is for everyone, that like, or that you can make it whatever you want. Like I did another video like a long time ago that sobriety is not binary. Like, are we counting caffeine? Because I'm caffeinated if you can't tell. Like, are we counting, like when I did surgery, I was on the antibiotics they put me on and the anesthesia and whatever else they gave me when I had surgery. I've had surgery 3 times in sobriety. One of them was on ayahuasca. Like, but that was intense. I was in a rocket ship. Okay. At least it appeared to be. It's not a true fact, but it was a spiritual experience. So when we look at sobriety or we look at like recovery or forevery, it doesn't matter. You know, what's true for us. There's a woman that I sponsored for a long time in AA, and she's been using gummies or THC, CBD, whatever she's been doing for maybe 5 years now. She still hasn't had a drink of alcohol. Alcohol was her problem. Actually, her entire well-being her life is so much better for her doing that. Where are the bonus points for her betraying what feels right to her and how she wants to live her life? Let's just say, for example, we don't believe in incarnation and that this is it, or maybe we do, whatever, but that's kind of another point. But if this is your one wild and precious life, how the fuck do you want to live it? Do you want to live it by Bill Wilson's 1930s cult religion where purity is the answer, abstinence is the answer? Maybe Bill needed to be abstinent. Honestly, though, when we really look at how well Bill Wilson was traveling, he spent the entire, 1940s depressed to the point where Marty Mann's trying to shake him out of bed so he can be a mouthpiece for AA, and he's so depressed he can't function. Maybe he would have been done better with some brownies. You know what I mean? Like, is that really his best life? Is that really what's best for him? Is that really recovery? Like, I don't know. I think that we get to decide for ourselves is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something you said there about like the abstinence thing being like the priority or like the hierarchy, right? Like it's abstinence is on top, so much so that and I've done it before too, but it's like even people who consume cannabis, right? And I consume a lot of cannabis, but people who take medications like methadone and Suboxone, like we're so like we want to be seen as sober, right? But like, well, I still consider that sober because we feel like sober is the best standard rather than just being like, well, yeah, like I do get high. I do smoke weed, but like my life is still great, but it's still seen as like, we want to be seen as sober because sober and abstinent is still looked at as the thing to be, right? Like if you're in real recovery, then you are sober. So even if we are getting high, like, you know, I mean, you get high when you smoke weed, right? Like we still want to be seen as sober because we feel like, well, if we're seen as for what it really is, then it's not really seen as the same as real recovery because of that standard. And I really want to break that. Like, that's why I say all the time, like, yes, I do get high. I get high. Like, it's okay that I get high. So like sober and abstinence doesn't have to be the end all be all.
Will you take this one from Harry too? I think it's really important.
I definitely will. Full disclosure, I'm down to 1 milligram of Suboxone. Tomorrow I will stop. I just want to say that people on MAT should not be told they are blocked off, from the sunlight of the spirit. 100%, dude. 100%. I have so much guilt for saying shit like that when I was in the program. So I'm really happy for you. It just made me
Ryan says, yes, the hierarchy of sobriety time is toxic. Like someone with 40 years, words and actions are looked at as the words and actions of a higher power, no matter how toxic. Yeah. I mean, it's like one of my favorite things to say to someone who's coming with their respect me because I have all this sobriety time. I'm like, I'll respect you because you're respectful. How about that? I'll respect you based upon how you're treating me. If you
Right.
come in like hard, like taking below the belt ad hominem baloney where you're attacking me, not the argument, and then you want me to like be obedient to you or surrender to you or be submissive to you because you have all this sober time. Well, first of all, you don't know how much sober time I have. So sometimes when they're coming at me, they have less sober time than me, but I don't really fucking care. It doesn't mean I'm better than you if it's been longer since I've had a drink than you. It's not a measure of anything. Just like your age isn't a measure of the quality of your character. Like it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous too, because if someone has 40 years, they can be the biggest predator in the room, but they will let that slide because, oh, they've helped so many people get sober. Oh, like they're such, a beast. And some people are sicker than others. Like the more time that you have, the more actual harm and more predatory things you can get away with.
Yeah. Blue Butterfly says ad hominem attacks are now called the steppers doing the 14th step. I love that. So ad hominem was a word I learned just last month. And so basically for anybody who doesn't know, you've probably experienced it from like a cult member, like a stepper, if you're out of AA. Ad hominem is essentially, it means at the man. So it's when you attack the person, not what they're talking about. And to me, it's just like it's a nonsensical argument. Okay, so you don't like my voice when I'm saying AA is a cult. Okay, well, that's like not relevant and who cares? Then go watch somebody else on YouTube. Like, why does it matter? It's like not relevant. Let's see. Kate says, I had a glass of wine at 6 years and it was emotionally safer to lie than the honesty they so professed. I can totally see that. I have a lot of empathy for that.
Me to the old timer. Why are you so angry after 36 years? I know.
Because it doesn't work. Because the thing is too, is like, so those of us who have gone on the like childhood trauma and like the emotional healing journey and have worked at processing our pain and our trauma, right? And our CPTSD and all that stuff. A lot of us who have gone on that journey, we realize how like embodied a lot of the work is, how emotional the work is in nature. And it involves us being embodied, coming back into our bodies, no longer disassociating from our feelings and what we feel inside of us. And so when I think about AA from a broader understanding of just healing in general, it's AA is mental. And there's nothing wrong with addressing the mental. So when I'm doing an inventory, like it's all up here. So I'm doing here, but a lot of what I've had to do to heal my nervous system, to regulate my nervous system, it's not mental. The mental stuff can help, but it's really about embodied. It's about me bringing my consciousness into my body, me having a new relationship with my emotions, me when grief comes, real grief, like the grief of leaving AA or the grief of a breakup or whatever, instead of abandoning myself and doing an inventory on it, looking for my part on it and getting into my head, it's dropping all that and it's bringing my attention into the sensations of grief that are present currently in my body and just letting it rip roar through me and crying and grabbing a pillow and just letting the grief move through me. That's kind of like what I learned. I learned that it's about being with my emotional world helps my emotions to shift. It's not just all about mental stuff. So there is value in my opinion on like mental healing work, but also the emotional stuff is like a different, deeper layer that AA didn't touch for me. That's not what AA is designed for.
No. Because it's fuck your feelings and fuck your emotions.
Current facts. Yeah.
It is undeniably a cult this time around. And Sarah says, we will be the change. Everyone from a clinical point of view loves this all-inclusive recovery for the win.
Yeah, that's why I feel like that's kind of what I came to like recently is anything other than harm reduction is violent. It's you putting your ideas onto somebody else, your will onto somebody else, you trying to squeeze somebody else into what you think is right for them. Because if they want to harm reduce, I wish somebody would have said, don't pay tens of thousands of dollars of rehab. Don't go to a cult religion that you're going to be in for 10 years. And look, I left AA 5.5 years ago, and I am still getting AA out of my head. The residual, what do we call it? The iatrogenic? Iatrogenetic? I got to learn how to say that, the harm from the treatment, I am still resolving, right? If somebody would have told me about Sinclair method, I would have tried that in a heartbeat, because I could have still drank, which I wanted to. I wouldn't have had to been institutionalized for a month, spend all of that money, and then recruited while I was in a non-12-step rehab, but I was still recruited by AA while I was in that center, because AA members were still allowed to come in and do their sales pitch, to do their recruitment and their proselytizing. So I was proselytized to while I was in a non-12-step rehab, which I paid a lot of money to go to a non-12-step rehab because they're rare.
Yeah.
And I was still recruited and still ended up in AA. And I really, if I could go back, I would say try Sinclair method, at least first. It doesn't work for everybody,
Right.
but it works for enough people. And in the book, The Cure for Alcoholism, it says it works for 78% of people. And that would have been a much easier, like a harm reduction approach, which is what I would have wanted, versus having to join a cult religion and abandon my personality, my worldview, my friends, to be honest, and everything about me. The only thing that needs to change is everything that ended up being true.
Totally.
Kirsten, you can also go to Emotions Anonymous. No kidding, it exists. Wait, what do you mean? What is Emotions Anonymous? Stop the insanity. What?
Powerless over your emotions. We're powerless over our emotions. Oh,
why is everything pathologized? That's why I wanted to talk about this today. I was like, okay, so Bill, the way that I was taught the big book, and I know we all had different experiences, that there's 2 parts in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that talk about what untreated alcoholism looks like. Untreated alcoholism actually is a sales tactic, a brilliant sales tactic, where you name you take natural occurring human things and you rebrand them as a lack of your product. The product is Alcoholics Anonymous, and Bill's a salesman. He's like, if you are experiencing these normal things, like if you feel irritable, if you feel restless, if you feel discontented, that is a sign that you are deprived of Alcoholics Anonymous.
yeah.
Like, bro, that's like just normal human existing. Like, what do you mean? Let's see. I swear, look it up for Addiction Anonymous. I mean, Emotions Anonymous. Okay, Nelson says, I loved your gratitude police skit. Will there be others? Yeah. So we wanted to do something about coerced gratitude. I know a lot of us, let me know in the comments if this is true for you, whether you're watching the replay or here live. A lot of us have like the ick around gratitude for quite a long time after leaving AA because of the coerced gratitude. It was emotional manipulation. It was spiritual bypassing. And it was a way to keep us in this, I think, like cult personality where we're always grateful that we're alive and we're grateful that we're sober. And not that we shouldn't be necessarily, but, oh, you're angry, get grateful. Oh, you have any feeling, get grateful. So yeah, we did a whole skit on it as the gratitude police because it was just so ridiculous. But also, fuck a system getting to like own part of our humanity. Like, we deserve to be grateful again. Like, we don't have to give any parts of ourselves to a system because it was so harmful. You know what I mean? We get to reclaim gratitude in our own time. And I was thinking this morning in the shower, as you do, that maybe a next step to reclaiming your gratitude, if you still have the ick around it, or you have like a post-cult gratitude hangover from 12-step, then joy would be a great way to go, because joy and gratitude are a little bit different. And so just notice when you naturally feel joy and lean into feeling a little bit more joy, or doing things that feel a little bit more joyful, so that you can lean into, like, I don't know, like coming alive without, as you work through the gratitude trauma. Oh, wait. Kate says, gratitude is wonderful, but not if it's spiritual bypassing. Totally.
Mary said, "Thank you for always speaking out. Tara, I owe it to you and a few others that I didn't fall back into the 12-step bullshit this time around. You owe it to yourself." But thank you. And I'm glad that you didn't. I'm glad because I know it sounds like, but you can do so much better than lifelong recovery. There is a whole wide world out for us to explore and to know. And we don't have to be pushed into this box because of our past experience with substances, Insanity.
Kirsten, you're nailing all the points. Yes. Yes, we deserve it. We deserve better. And I can't even tell you how liberating it feels to have deconstructed from being anonymous. I stayed anonymous for 5 years after leaving the cult. What the fuckery? So I don't get to own my voice and my story and my truth. And I don't get to speak to like where there's a harm in a system that like I can see clearly. And maybe I could say something because I feel compelled to. And maybe that could impact somebody, even impact me in my own healing, but maybe it impacts somebody else. I stayed anonymous for 5 years. Some of you guys know this already. I left AA April 6, 2020, after 10 and a half years in AA. And then I didn't speak about it until April 6, 2025. Literally on my 5 years sober from AA day, 5 years after leaving AA day is when I opened my mouth and was like, I felt like a volcano about to explode. I'm like, I need to say this. I think someone needs to hear it. And like, this needs to be known. And like, why am I keeping my anonymity to a group that was harmful that I don't even believe in? Like, can't I just speak my truth? And it hasn't come without arrows for sure. Anybody who shares about the harm of AA online or 12-step online will know right away there's arrows that come at you. We're not victims. I'm not a victim in this. I'm expecting it. I expect the haterade. A lot of it I've used to wake up my own critical thinking. But yeah, I feel fundamentally that we deserve better. Like, yes, let us know that the treatment's harmful. That's it. Don't take the treatment away. Don't tell us not to go. Just tell us you can go this path. You can try Sinclair method. You could try smart recovery. You can try harm reduction. You could try Alcoholics Anonymous. Over here, there's some harms in it, but there are 5% of the people are going to get results. And like, so yeah, I just wish it was well known, like what we were getting into instead of like this hit, like sweep it under the rug. Who cares about them? Let's just send them all into these church basements and forget about them. They're not society's problem anymore, And people are always argue AA is for like the low bottom ones who really need it, who can't go anywhere else, who are going to die. I'm like, bro, but that was me. I was going to die. Like I still didn't need AA. So was my best friend at the time who was drinking. She was going to die. Guess what? She went to AA for 6 months and then had me sponsor her. And then she left and she's still alive. Like she's fine. She was worse. She drank more than me and she's still alive. So no, don't believe the lies.
No. And they act like it's the last stop on the block, and it's not. It's the first one. It's everybody's first idea and first experience with hope for an addiction. So
I can't wait till there's like, it's common in like Netflix shows, movies, etc., that people are trying multiple sobriety paths or harm reduction, or they're like, the doctor talked about naltrexone, or I'm going to go to a smart recovery meeting. Oh, I learned about coping skills, instead of it all being a church basement like model. That it's just more mainstream, that there's options. We deserve it. We deserve to know that we're walking. Don't lie to us and say it's not a cult, but we need brainwashing. It's not spiritual. We need religion. I'm like, it's a religion. The entire program is designed to get you access to God. Hello, isn't that a religion? Like, I don't know if it's not a religion, then what the fuck is? Because it's all designed to get you access to God of your understanding that's going to keep you sober. Like literally God's the solution. You can rebrand it as higher power, but he did that to be, more widespreading, but that's a religion.
Right. It's crazy too, like how many people still today will say, well, what other options are there? As if like there's really no other free. It's like there's infinite options the way that there are people. It's crazy.
And they're like, well, it's better than dying. I'm like, yeah, but it's called a false dichotomy. That's a logical fallacy called a false dichotomy, AA or dying. Those aren't the two options. But that's like what happens when you're indoctrinated. You think it's AA or death because they tell you that. I knew AA was the last house on the block because they said that when I got to the rooms. it wasn't the last house on the block for me. It
No.
was one of the first ones. I tried it on my own first, like maybe I won't drink for like, I never tried to fully quit. I tried to not drink for like a month. I didn't drink. One time I quit for like 5 months. I was going to not drink for the school semester and I did sufficiently. But I never fully actually tried to get sober because I never wanted to until I went to, even when I went to rehab, I wasn't trying to become abstinent. I was in rehab very clear that I had these plans to be like, in my old age with my partner on the beach taking MDMA. You know what I mean? Like my old school raver vibes were being channeled. And I was like, I'm going to be like one of those older people that's like, fuck it, let's roll. Like literally. And they're like, you can't do that. And I'm like, I don't have a drug problem. Like, they're like, yeah, but you can't do anything. And I'm like, so they're selling me on abstinence, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want abstinence. And then they're selling me on AA and I go to AA and it's just like,
Here's your identity.
yeah. So Kate says, it's hilarious when they tell you you're breaking the traditions by speaking about AA harms. Yeah, you know, what's even more ironic is they say that I'm harming AA, or they say, I wonder how many thousands of people you're killing by through this video alone. And I'm like, bro, speaking about the harm, let me know if this is a logical fallacy. Is it called ad what the fuckery? Like we have ad hominem. So maybe it's called ad what the fuckery when you say, hey, this system is harmful. And they're like, you saying the system is harmful is harmful. I'm like, well, if me calling your system harmful is harmful, what does that say about your system? Like, if people won't go because I'm saying it's harmful, what are we learning here about your system? If not, tell me how what I'm saying isn't true. You know what I mean? Like, it
No,
doesn't even
totally.
make sense. There must be a name for that. For now, we can call it ad what the fuckery.
Yeah.
Blue Butterfly says, watching YouTube gives me joy. Great to hear it. Yay, joy vibes. Ad what the fuckery. That's like you saying like, yeah. I mean, it's so weird. You're like, this group is harmful. They're like, you're harmful.
Yeah.
What?
That's literally what it is, though.
They're
saying you're harmful.
This group is really harmful. You're killing people.
Yeah.
Add what the fuckery?
They always say that too, though. They always say, like, let people make decisions for themselves. Like, let them, you're harming people. You're preventing someone who could really need this to save their life. And they're going to see your videos and not go to the program. It's like, dude, I'm flattered that you think I'm that convincing, but B, like
powerful.
the amount of information that they get that is pro 12-step, and even if they go to mainstream help, they're gonna get it presented to them in some form or some fashion. Like you said, you didn't even go to a 12-step rehab, but they still came in, right? They still came in and carried the message, and you still the seed was still planted. The seed's always gonna still get planted.
Yeah.
I can't read that.
Okay, Lee says it is a to you fallacy. To cuckoo. Cuckoo. 100% it's cuckoo. I'll have to learn how to pronounce these. Yeah, I love learning about the fallacies because it's like it's so weird. Like, I feel like when you awaken to critical thinking in a deeper way and understanding logical fallacies and understanding how our minds can be biased and how that can mislead us, I feel like we like unlock such like a level of intelligence that's so cool. And so to be able to see how people who are inside of an ideology or in a cult religion, right, are kind of being nonsensical, but they really don't get it. They really believe what they're saying, I would imagine, because I did when I was in there, but it doesn't make any sense. And it's like, yeah. Let's see. Scientology is harmful. You're harming Scientology. Yeah. Thank you for always. Kwok Kwe. Okay. Kwok Kwe. To Kwok Kwe. Love it. Okay.
Kwok Kwe.
Thank you for including the phonetic kind of spelling. Appreciate it.
Donald said, "Be careful. The AA freaks stopped me. They made websites dedicated to my online activity, posted loved one names, took pictures of my neighborhood, and posted pics of my home." Jake.
Why did they do this, Donald? I'm so curious. Why were you targeted by cult members? Were you dissenting?
Yeah, I think I saw him say something like about that earlier.
I'm curious what brought this illegal activity. I guess stalking is illegal.
Hmm.
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty common when you speak out about a cult to be targeted. I know that, like, I just read recently, I know some of you guys just read it too, Margaret Singer's book called Cults in Our Midst. And she got a lot of these cult experts like Margaret Singer, who was really big, I guess, after like Jonestown, and she was really big in like the 80s and the 90s and stuff, in the 2000s. I think she's no longer with us. In her book, she writes about all the different ways that she was harassed and followed or sued or whatever for her work in helping people deprogram from cults. And yeah, it's brutal. And she said that she would go every year to the cemetery in Oakland in California. And in the Oakland cemetery, I think about 450 or so, about half the people who died in Jonestown, who drank the Kool-Aid and died from the cyanide, I believe. Well, it's Flavor Aid, right? About half them are buried, I believe, at Oakland Cemetery. And she would go there every year on the anniversary of the mass suicide. And she would, well, the mass killing, I guess, because they were brainwashed. And she would remind herself of why she was doing the work, because the level of harassment she was getting. And she would think of like the 200 plus kids that don't have lives that were taken out by the Kool-Aid. And that would be like her strength to keep her going, was like, I'm doing this for like the kids, and I'm doing this for the life that these people don't get to live because these groups are so harmful. And that would like fuel her for the rest of the year and like really give her purpose. And I just really like that pilgrimage that she did. She lived in the Bay Area, so it wasn't too far, but like, yeah, it's brutal when you speak out about a cult, including AA. Let's see. Okay, so Donald says they did it because I was speaking out against AA. And then he said, I was pretty aggressive about it. Yeah, I think there is it might have to do with how aggressive you are about it too. But some people would argue that I'm very aggressive about it. And some people would say I'm not. I don't know. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that happened to you. That's fucked up. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy that this is what's so insane about it to me. It's like, here we have a cult that is normalized in society to the point where the courts are not know it's a religion because there's been the lawsuits, but they're not recognizing it as a religion when they're mandating or court ordering people to go to the meetings and get their court cards signed. It's institutionalized, meaning it's in the recovery treatment centers. And also the whole idea that we need treatment is even like up for debate. Most people recover spontaneously, right? Or without treatment. But it's so embedded into our system that it's normal. It's in Hollywood. Brad Pitt saying, hey, I went to AA, it's great. Steve-O is saying, hey, I went to AA, it's great. By the way, but the 4-step put me in the psych ward. So they're kind of giving these ominous warnings, but they're also saying it is the way. And then if you dare speak out about, hey, this group is harmful, which I wish more people were doing that. If more people had been speaking out about it in the 2000s, because I went to AA in 2009 for the first time. I joined the cult in 2009. And so if there had been a bunch of people that were very actively and vocal about it, speaking out about it, like, I might have thought twice about it, and I might have been more validated and this is weird and found another way, or not gotten totally involved. Right. And so it's like, we can't even warn people about how dangerous it is. And also society doesn't see how dangerous it is. It's a weird we're in a weird era about this, the 12-step cult religion, because you're not really allowed to talk about it. I mean, you can, but you get attacked.
Yeah, there's a lot of pushback, and even people who don't understand it are like, oh, well, okay, if it doesn't work for you, fine, but why do you have to talk about it? And it's like, you're missing the entire freaking point.
Yeah. So Donald says, I looked into legal action, but there is this thing called clean hands doctrine. Okay, I don't exactly know what that is, but
Me
Donald
neither.
here is agreeing. Yeah. It's a weird predicament. It's like you can't say anything, but you can't not say anything. And then if you say something, you're going to get attacked just in the comments or outside your house. Like, yeah. So Don, did you stop talking about it? Is that ultimately what happened? Did it work, their coercion? Because that sounds very aggressive and I would want those attacks to stop. So I would understand why it's like, it doesn't feel worth it for 100%.
Yeah.
Matt Harris says, when you look at the definition of religion, 12-step meets all other criteria. Yeah, I know AA as a 12-step cult, as a cult religion, because I looked at the criteria. I looked at when people say it's not a cult, I'm like, that's not my opinion. I literally looked at the checklist, and for me, I looked at the ICSA checklist. I understand there's multiple checklists, but I looked at one of them and I very extensively went through the checklist. And then after I determined, based upon a cult characteristics 15-point checklist, I made a playlist on YouTube called AA as a Cult with 4-part series, breaking it down in specific detail how AA meets each of the criteria, which was a very a big research project. So I didn't just decide AA is a cult because I had a bad experience. It's like, no, I looked at the actual criteria. Like, we're trying to use our brains out here. We're not being emotional about it. It's like, we're being factual about it. My emotions are like secondary to the facts. Like, I'm not leading with my emotions, just like, I don't like it. I had a bad experience, therefore it's a cult. It's like, no, that's not what's happening here.
But so many of them think that's what it is. They literally think it's that simple. Yeah. It's insane. Harry said, AA is harmful. A big part of why I had a setback was the realization that I was embroiled in complete nonsense because I was all in. And it was devastating when I realized that I stood for nothing. I know it is. It's crazy. You know, I didn't have that experience until after I left. And then I realized how many years I wasted trying to have it work, you know, and it is devastating is the perfect word for it, because it is devastating.
Yeah. I was shocked. I was properly shocked when I left. And I was livid. I was like, what the fuck? I was mad at society for not having it be known that it was harmful. And okay, fine, fair enough. If you want us to go there to get sober, but let us know that we can leave at 2 years or at 3 years, or that we should work out with a therapist at the same time when we can actually leave. And then how to get the dogma then out of our head and stuff. Yeah, I had all the feels.
Jim said, handing your life over to God is a kind of clue. Yeah. You would think, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah, you become in religious forevery. I cooled out a bit. Yeah, totally. I'm not cooled out yet. I still have some steam. I came out hot though when I started dissenting, because for 5 years I had been like, I just feel like it was kind of building over time of me just at my core not feeling right about being silent about the harms that I could so clearly see. I just felt like it was so wrong. I can't not say something, because people are actively being harmed. And for me, it wasn't even, I have no interest in converting anybody. I think converting people is violent. That's kind of how I see it now, like actively converting, unless you choose to convert, if you want to convert into something. But the coerced conversion to me is very like a violent thing to do. And so, yeah, I don't want to convert people out of AA. I wanted to be like a voice to validate those who already left, who are going bananas because they're like, what the fuck? There's like nobody mirroring for me that it's okay and safe to leave and I can trust myself, and thinking critically is safe and I can reactivate my own thoughts. And I've been manipulated, and yeah, and it sucks, and it's going to be a while to climb out of the cult religion, but you can do it. And here's a path, or at least I did it and I'm okay. Like I think we deserve to be validated, you know?
Totally.
Kate says the courts who deemed it a religion also looked it up. It's so weird that like the people who have won the court cases, right? I haven't looked deep into this yet. I haven't done this rabbit hole yet. The people who have won the court cases about AA, about like you can't mandate religion, separation of church and state in America, but that while that those cases have won, that yes, it is a religion, but also people are still by the state being sent to a religion. It's like crazy pills, right? Cognitive dissonance in the system. Donald says, I wrote something called The New 12 Steps and sent it to you on Facebook. It's a parody on how it works. Oh, you sent it to me on Facebook or you sent it to Tara? Exactly my experience. Yeah, so I guess the bottom line with where my heart was at today was, to Tara. Where my heart was today was there's nothing wrong with us. Like maybe we're in a season where we have some healing that we can do to move forward, but we're not fundamentally diseased forever. This is just my belief, right? I don't know what you should believe. We don't need to be in recovery forever. These are choices. We can choose to believe we have a disease. It's a choice. It's not a reality, but we can choose that if it's helpful. We can choose to we can identify person first with an old behavior if we feel that that's helpful. Like I'm an alcoholic. I choose not to. I used to have alcohol use disorder. I don't anymore because I haven't had a drink since 2009. Drinking is not relevant for me. I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to drink tomorrow. That's not arrogant. That's reality. I also know if I do drink, I am going to try Sinclair method. I say that all the time. That means it's going to take me some time to get those pills. So there already is a little bit of time, and I'm not opposed to if I decide to drink again, but I have no plans to. But I believe in harm reduction. I don't believe that abstinence is the goal. And so I just feel like a lot of what a lot of us are facing is a lack of coping skills. Like when we end up in AA in the first place or 12 step, a lack of coping skills potentially because we've used alcohol to regulate ourselves, probably some unresolved trauma, but not everybody, maybe some undiagnosed situations, whether it's neurodivergence or something else that can actually, when we get actual clarity on what's going on, it can move us to a legitimate healing path so that we're not in forevery, we're in actual recovery, and then we recover and then we move on. I had a broken leg at one point in my time. I was in a cast for 6 weeks. The cast was off. I'm not forever recovering from that broken leg. I was recovering from it for a period of time, and then I've moved the fuck on with my life, and I'm not wearing the cast forever. And if I was still wearing that cast, what would happen? It would be funky, monkey, chunky. There'd be like bacteria in there. It would infect my skin. It would be itchy AF. I would be being harmed by the treatment if I clung to the cast. AA is the cast, right? Whatever method we use to recover, that's the cast. And we might decide we want to be in a cast forever. And the cast we choose might be actually harmful, especially long term. So yeah, the whole idea of like recovery being forever, I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to think of it now as like permanent, temporary. It's temporary permanence. What?
Yeah.
I'm impermanent. What?
It's definitely holding people back. That's for sure.
Okay. King Mason says, there is no actual program anywhere. Can we start with that much? Say more. I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Do you mean the program of AA specifically? My understanding, the program of AA is like the 12 steps, essentially. Reading the book with your sponsor. Kate says, I used to have AUD and now I drink moderately and I don't fit the criteria. Yeah, that's the thing about AUD. You can still actively drink and you can be recovered from alcohol addiction, from alcohol use disorder, because it's about how much you drink and what's going on when you drink. It's not about abstinence, and it's not about this disease, and it's not about character defects, and it's definitely not about a moral inventory or a spiritual malady. It's literally about the quantity of drinking. Louise says, I wrote a parody of how it works too and put it in the deprogram lounge. Oh, that was you. Yeah, that was hilarious. Oh my God. I wanted to like post it on all the socials. It was so good. It's so ridiculous to begin with. So it makes great satire. I've seen many good ones. Deprogrammers are funny as fuck. Totally. it's like a gold mine for comedy because it's like, especially, and I think laughing about it really is a good place to be because I was certainly crying about it and angry about it at first. So to come to a place where it's genuine humor, to me, it speaks to the healing and the recovery from the recovery harm, you know, where it's like, oh, I used to believe this. I'm like, oh, wow, I was literally crying on Bill Wilson's grave, thanking him for my life. Wow, what the fuckery was that? Talk about being a true believer.
Jim said, do you use hand intro music for the start of the pod yet?
I don't know
I'm
what
not
that. I have no idea what that
yeah.
means. I don't understand. Can you send a decipher coder ring? Remember? Does anybody remember when there was like little prizes in the cereal and there was like little decoder rings? Oh my gosh, this has been so fun. We've just been jamming. I look at the clock and I'm like, wow, all this time has passed.
I know, it goes by fast. It goes by fast.
Yeah, I think the bottom line for me is that I don't find that pathologizing ourselves is a helpful mindset for the long run. Maybe looking at what we have going on temporary is a good thing, but to be in the mindset of forever inventorying ourselves. I just interviewed somebody for my podcast. It hasn't gone live yet, but she said that she stopped working on herself and her life has just improved tremendously. And after being in and out AA for 15 years, now she doesn't work on herself anymore. She's done all this therapy, all this step work, all these things. She drinks moderately now and she doesn't work on herself. And she's been living, it's been the best for her ever. Is the healthiest she's ever been, the happiest she's ever been. And there's something to that, to not constantly put ourselves under the microscope, like the daily inventory and all of that. Now, some people might find benefit from that. And maybe there's seasons where that makes sense. But this is the idea that we have to, that any feeling or you spot it, you got it, has to be inventoried.
Totally. And I think again, like there's seasons for working on yourself too, but to be considered stagnant because you're not actively, working on your internal whatever is, I mean, that's just silly. Sometimes you have things that you want to work on and then you get to a place where you enjoy who you are once you've overcome those things. And then, yeah, maybe something else comes along and then you start working on that. But to forever be in this, just churning and burning, trying to like, oh, I'm just like not good enough. Like, it makes you feel like you're not good enough. Like you constantly have something that you need to change about yourself. That's not healthy.
Yeah, that's being in forevery.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Let's see. Kate says, yes, me too. So sick of working myself. I'm tired. Donald says, they tried to make me believe I was someone I just was not. Totally. I went to them over and over. Then someone online, like, you gave me permission to believe something else. Yeah, we get to think for ourselves. What makes sense to me? The coerced worldview, I think, is it. Yeah, I think to me it all just feels violent. That someone else is going to decide for you. And the way that I look at it, is Bill died before I was born. Do I really need to like listen to somebody who died before I was born? That was my thinking when I left AA. Somebody who died before I was even born set out is in charge of what my life purpose is. How does that even make sense? Even if he was still alive, it's just like, how does that even make sense that I have to be in forevery and free laboring and exploit myself in his program just so that I could survive? Because maybe it did become the bright spot of my life. In some ways, I had joy in sponsorship. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't doing it for joy. I was doing it to survive because I was told essentially I would die if I didn't do it. If I, half measures were going to avail me nothing. So I was a prisoner to it. I'm going to see. Okay, Kings Mason said, no programs, no persons inside of them, no in recovery or not in recovery, false dichotomy, no need to get saved. Then testify daily. That daily testimony is how to get saved. Lather, rinse, repeat. Let's see. Continuing on. Alcoholic really is a filthy word. It is smuggled stereotype, an image of inherent shame. Yeah. I just don't even think that word is helpful anymore. And I only use it to refer to that I don't use it.
Right.
I do like alcohol addiction. I do like alcohol use disorder, but deprogramming from deconstructing the word alcoholism and alcoholic were very helpful for me. And even addict, first person identity on dysfunction.
Totally.
And then King Mason says it's a slur in my experience. Totally. It's a, and aren't we here to burn the stigma, bitches?
Yeah. That's right.
Did I miss one? I feel like Jim is like Queen, I want to break free, just an intro song. I have an intro song on my audio podcast. Well, I have an intro 3-second musical clip. It is electronic music because I loved the rave. Any other former ravers here? I loved the rave. It was so fun.
I can see you in the rave scene for sure.
I had a rave name. I had glow sticks. I loved dancing, cutting a rug, warehouses. It was the vibe. And I was sober most of the time because I found that if I drank or used something or smoked cigarettes or anything, I couldn't dance as long, and I just loved to dance. So I would go sober and dance. I would wear like Reeboks or like very comfortable running shoes and just go and dance for forever, like forever. Yeah, I loved it. Okay, we have Ryan saying 90s raver here. Yeah, totally. All those like break-ins and underground raves and map points. Remember in 90210, they had the map point for their rave and they had to exchange an egg. Am I dating myself? Any other Gen Xers here? I'd like to exchange an egg. It was like Andrea Zuckerman or something. Like, what? You're exchanging an egg? All right, we have Kate, raver in the house, pump up the jam. Yeah, pump up the jam. Totally. It was a vibe, all the vibes. Yeah, I felt like because I went to the rave for a decade. So going to the rave for a decade meant that I had, and this was pre-social media, I had like hundreds of friends because you go to the same every weekend, every Tuesday night you go here, every Sunday you do this. And so, or every big Saturday night or like whenever. And so I knew for all these years, all these people, and then the DJs, the promoters, the people, you know, whatever, the whole scene, right? And so for 10 years, I just was like very connected in this community. And then I left that and did grad school and stuff. And then I ended up in AA. And then for 10 years in AA, I was super connected and I can go anywhere in the world and instantly have like friends, right? And so leaving AA and leaving the rave, it's like, there's just this, I don't know, I do have that sense of missing that kind of effortless built-in community that I've had at the rave and that I had at Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I haven't really solved that completely, like how to like replicate that in I don't know. And maybe that isn't something to be replicated, but I mean, it's something that I miss for sure. Let's see. Well, that was a fun. Thanks for vibing with us today, everybody. Like, it's always so fun to like see where you're at in the comments and to conversate with you and to figure out what feels true to each of us and share where we're at in our deprogramming journey. I really appreciate everybody being so honest and transparent in the comments. And yeah, I think it's a really important topic to look at. Like, maybe we're not character defected. Maybe we're not diseased. Maybe we're not maladied. Maybe we're not ill. And maybe anybody who tells you all those things with zero science, literally zero science from 100 years ago or 90 years ago, to be more accurate. And it's like, what the fuckery? Like, that's not okay to keep telling me that I'm sick. And what do we know about the placebo and the nocebo effect and stuff? And it's just like, no, why don't we like preach wellness? Why don't we preach like, you know, what we want and understand how powerful our minds are and not think of ourselves as defective or diseased, forever diseased? Like, yeah, no more learned helplessness.
No.
Yeah. Donald says, I appreciate what you do. And Ryan says, it was amazing how many, quote, friends were nowhere to be found when I left. stepism, and decided to handle things on my own. Yeah, it's sad, but it's true. We don't get to take most of them with us. There's a few exceptions. Everybody always has an exception or two. I have one person who wasn't weird about it. The only friends I have from AA are the friends who also left AA.
Same. Same.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of my friends from AA who hadn't left when I started dissenting are now like, I've been watching your videos. I left AA. I'm in therapy now. Like, thank you. I'm seeing the light. I'm like, I didn't mean to convert you out of AA. I was just like, it's a lie. I feel, you know what I feel like we're doing, honestly? I feel like we're saying, bro, the emperor is naked. There's literally no clothes. And everyone's like, you're crazy. You're bad. You're harmful. I'm like, but he's literally naked. The emperor has no clothes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, we didn't see it back then, so of course the people in it aren't gonna see it, but like we've said before, it's literally once you see it, you want to talk about the real no going back to a cucumber, not going back to a pickle, or whatever, a pickle not going back to a cucumber, like they try to say in AA. I think the true pickle not going back to a cucumber is once you see what's really going on, you can't go back and just like put that away and not see it for what it is. It's like, boom, like you said, naked emperor,
Yeah. And I also think that it's totally a vibe for people to recognize that AA is not the way. It is a path, and that it has harm in it, and that it's baloney, but they still go because they're still getting benefit from the community. They're still getting benefit from it in some way that feels right to them. I totally respect that.
Yeah,
I do. Because what I feel strongly about is conscious choice.
Yes.
It's looking at the facts and then deciding for ourselves. And there's no shame in what we decide.
No.
Whether we decide harm reduction, whether we decide to like half-ass AA, do half measures AA, let's call it, where we kind of know it's baloney, but we're still going for a reason. Half baloney, like half measures AA, or like whatever we choose. And so, yeah, I just feel like there's no shame in it. Like nobody who gets to like be in charge of like what means that we're valid as a human and that we're worthy, and like,
yeah, it's freaking wacky.
Well, this has been super fun. Y'all know that we're doing this every week. So we're going live on YouTube and Facebook every week, Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Next week is actually going to be early. And next week is going to be at 9 a.m. Is that right?
Yeah, 9 a.m.
So we're going to be 3 hours early next week. It's going to be at 9 a.m. Eastern and at 6 a.m. Pacific, because Tara has a fun event to do.
I'm just tabling at a cannabis event and slinging Narcan, fentanyl test strips, and
what does that mean? Slinging Narcan.
So I give out free Narcan to people like this. It's a holiday cannabis party or fundraiser for Mass Can. So I'm just going in with kind of like a safe partying over the holidays vibe. Just keep it very factual information. It's not about recovery, because I feel like majority of the harm reduction tools that are out there, a lot of people wouldn't walk into some of those places, right? Because they look at it as, those people on that end of the spectrum, versus there's majority of people who use drugs don't have substance use disorder. Majority of people that can benefit from a lot of these harm reduction things don't have substance use disorder, but there's no real entry point for them unless they want to walk into places that, unfortunately, society, the way that it discusses people who use drugs, people with substance use, just people who use drugs in general, like they're not going to be seen walking into a clinic, they're just not going to do it. So that's what I do in the cannabis community, because there's a lot of polysubstance users there. So it's like a good place to mingle with people who are using drugs.
Awesome. Okay, Donald said, I used to go to meetings to pull people out. Nobody listened. Yeah, it's like they can't hear because they're speaking a different language. We speak, if we've been in AA and we're indoctrinated into AA, we speak Cultanese, we speak AA loaded language, whatever you want to call it. We speak AA or NA or 12-step, but only the people who have deprogrammed or people who understand cult recovery, cult psychology, and deprogramming, deconstructing can speak what we speak, which is deprogramming, right? I would argue that people who are like deconstructing from Mormonism or any religion that they're in, that they can also speak the language that we're speaking, not specific to the ideology, but the deconstruction language would be shared between us, like coerced into believing something or like whatever it is, right? Because different groups have different levels of control. But yeah, AAs don't, like, they can't hear us. That's like saying wanting the fish to see the water. It's like, I don't know. It's like how the brainwashing works. You're in that cognitive dissonance state. But every once in a while, the brainwash can crack, and then we could potentially get free or have like a little crack there.
Yeah.
Is there an actual deprogramming method? Actually, very interesting that you ask. I have just made a video that was requested. I did a live on Thursday. There's like Thanksgiving was Thursday in America, and sometimes we do like Friendsgiving around Thanksgiving. I did Besties Giving on my channel, where I went live on my YouTube channel for Besties Giving, and we like vibed. And I had just that morning created a cult recovery checklist for myself. And then I went down the checklist to see where I was at in my deprogramming journey. And it was pretty comprehensive. And then somebody in that live said that they wanted to see that. And so what I did was I recorded a video. It's quite lengthy. It's an hour long. It goes through the entire checklist, and the checklist is on the screen, and I talk through all the points. And so that video is dropping on Tuesday on Sobriety Bestie YouTube. And it's about like, how long does deprogramming take, where you add in your like a cult recovery checklist. And this is not like an official thing. This is like what I did, and someone wanted to see what I did. So I'm just sharing and I made myself like a list of like what I still have left to do that for me would help me remove myself from AA worldview and things like that. As far as, is there an actual deprogramming method? A lot of the cult recovery experts, leaders, they've written books, and I've looked at how they've thought about cult recovery, and they talk about them in different things. And so one of the first things that is recommended to do by a lot of the experts in cult recovery stuff is to understand thought reform, to understand brainwashing or mind control, which is all essentially the same thing. And so what I did for my own growth, but also for other people, is I made a playlist on Sobriety Bestie YouTube. That's it's called 8 Ways AA Controls Your Mind, but it would be 12-step, 8 Ways AA Controls Your Mind. And then there's 8 videos in that series, and it goes through each one of the the criteria and Robert J. Lifton's 8 criteria for thought reform. And it does each one. Like, I think number 1 is milieu control, which is like no outside literature, right? Controlling the information. And so I go through each of those. And so that's one of the very first things that's recommended. Another thing that's really important is to look at all the beliefs that you are believing when you are in a cult. So I wrote down everything that AA had me believe that I didn't believe before I got to AA, like that I have a disease, that I have a spiritual malady, that I have to forever go to these meetings, that I need a daily reprieve, that the daily reprieve requires this. So another thing, is to look at what are you believing by the group. So there are, if you look at the different cult recovery researchers and experts, they do give their own pathway out. But for me, when I really think about healing and recovery in general, is that everyone's individual. There is no one way to do things. And so I've taken what I wanted and left the rest. I've looked at what some of these experts have done, and I've kind of laid out my own path. And then I've created content on my YouTube channel around what that looks like. But part of it for me was for sure to understand how cults indoctrinate us, like what thought reform looks like. And then because understanding how the manipulation occurred helped me wake up to how deep I got in there. And then in climbing out, then there's things like there's different phases, right? There's going to be the phase where you're reconstructing. So you deconstruct what the cult put into you, the 12-step ideology, and then it's reconstruction. So reconstruction's like rebuilding a community, rebuilding a worldview, rebuilding your identity. It's like rebuilding things in your life. So I don't think that there's one method. I made a deprogramming course. And so I came up with what I felt like was steps that would make sense. but they're just as good as that anybody else steps that make sense. And so I would say you could even go to Chat GPT and say, what's a great method to deprogram from Alcoholics Anonymous? Give me like 8 steps or something. What are things I need to know or need to experience? And just see what it shoots out. And then go look at, like, read a cult recovery book and see what that person says and find your way through it. I don't know. That's kind of like how I do it. I don't want to take all my information from one source anymore after having been in a
Totally.
cult. So I'm kind of like, what do all the people say? And let me like pick a little bit from all the people and just, and yeah, and get the ideology out of my head. It can go in deep, though. That's what's so surprising about it. It's like how deep it can go in. But I would argue that that's also what's so amazing about it, because I don't look at it as a bad thing that I'm currently deprogramming and I'm 5 years out of AA. I look at it as a good thing. My perspective is that each time I do the deprogramming work, I'm opening up to more freedom, more autonomy, more agency, more me. So for me, it's like a joy. It's like an awakening. It's like I keep opening up more pockets of freedom. So I'm excited about that. So my perspective on it is like, it's cool. It's fun. I'm so glad I had to keep not only opening up more pockets of freedom, but I'm becoming a way better thinker than I ever was even before I went to AA.
Totally. I agree.
All right. This has been so fun. We'll see you next week, 3 hours earlier, for Burnie, Burn the Stigma, and Bestie's Sobriety Bestie Live. Burnie and Bestie Live next week, 3 hours earlier. We will see you. Anybody watching the replay, so glad to have had you here for this replay. And feel free to DM me, DM either one of us. Let us know in the comments below what came up for you. And let's keep getting mofo free around here. So I feel like we're really courageous. I feel like this is really liberating work. And I feel really excited to still be on this active deprogramming path. And it's a pleasure to do it alongside a lot of other people who are also helping me grow. Thank you for all your comments. I really learned so much by learning what's going on with everybody else. And quite often I'm still wrong in my thinking, meaning I can open up to better ways of seeing things. And so I really appreciate everybody sharing their perspectives, because it really stretches mine. And I just want to learn. So I feel like, yeah, it's really, really a joy to be alongside you. Kate says, can you announce like a day early and the times? Yes, for sure. I can put a post on my YouTube saying what it's going to be. Also, I can have, if you subscribe to Sobriety Bestie on YouTube and you click the bell for notifications, what I can do is I can put the live video the day before on my YouTube, so that if you do have the bells, if you've subscribed to me and hit the bell, you'll get a notification that I'm going live in 24 hours. So, and then it'll tell you the time if you look at it. So it'll notify you. Plus I'll do a post in my YouTube feed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll post it on my stuff too.
All right, everybody, take care. So great to have you here today. Keep trusting yourself.
Have a good week.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.